Hi, this is Dr. Pike for LDR330 Personal Leadership. We're in week 7 and covering chapter 13 of the Effective Leadership text by Ronald Humphrey. This chapter is entitled Charisma, Rhetoric, and Impression Management. Now, there are a couple different schools of thought on charisma. There is one perspective that these people are just born with these divine gifts, and they're born special to incite awe from other people. There is the scholar's perspective in that they believe that charisma is more related with behaviors than special gifts, that rhetoric, or speaking to people and learning to speak, can incite that same awe, and you can create that rather than being born with it. The other part is that it's a cultivated persona in that they create a sense of common values and identify the followers that they're able to motivate, as well as offering goal-oriented rewards. If you meet this certain timeline, then you receive this intrinsic gift or accolade. Continuing in the vein of charisma, charismatic leaders create new plans and establish a vision. And this vision that a charismatic leader puts out there for their subordinates is usually one that is aligned with what their subordinates are looking to get from the company. And that's where we go to the me versus we. And in that, it's the leader's ability to identify with the subordinate and the subordinate's ability to identify with the leader. The leader is smart to use we statements. We feel that the company should progress so that we all share in its benefits. That there is a common collective and that these people have a social identity. They're interconnected with the organization. These are key relationships. Crisis requires charismatic leaders. Think back to the World Trade Center bombings and when President Bush actually showed up to Ground Zero. Wasn't a very popular president, but when he showed up and made promises, that was charismatic action, and he was able to step forward in a time of crisis and establish himself as a leader, not only to those first responders at Ground Zero, but to millions that had just been devastated seeing those images on television. Now, no matter how you feel about the political alignment or whether there are specific agendas involved, that type of behavior is what needs to be present in a crisis situation. Somebody needs to step up. There needs to be the calm amongst the chaos. People look to leaders to be the eye of the storm. Emotional contagion. Charismatic leaders display positive emotions. Now, I've heard it said that you have to fake it until you make it, and I've heard other people say that. For myself, in having a Christian worldview, I know that Dr. Davis believes in this, and he's a big proponent in pause, pray, and reflect. And so we can put on that armor of God and move forward in these, whether it be a crisis situation or a mundane everyday situation or a day that is trying because someone is going through some personal dilemma. And we can not expel, fake emotions, over the top emotions, but we can certainly empathize with persons. And we understand that even when the person is in the storm, you can tether them to you through positive emotions. And if you do that, you're going to have more effective outcomes. And in this, there's a simple model. Influencing moods via emotional contagion is modeling positive emotions. So if I have a person that's bickering, or if I have a person that's exhibiting some sort of negative behavior, I want to model the behaviors that I want them to have. So if I come in and I'm very polite, and they may not be, they may be curt, they may be short, but if I continue those behaviors, it allows that person to try on those behaviors from time to time. And it may not be genuine at first. It may be something that they're just trying to do in reciprocity, or it may be something that they're trying to do to be vindictive. But it allows them to try the behavior. And when you respond in kind with more positive behavior, it creates an avalanche. And understand that once these persons start going that way and the avalanche starts to happen, that their positive mood influences others, and it creates a positive environment once that starts to cascade. Emotional labor. Okay, so emotional labor. Think of wait staff, and they're greeting folks at your local Applebee's or other restaurant in your local vicinity, or to the elderly person that's sitting in front of Walmart that's offering you the cart and saying, "Welcome to Walmart." This is considered emotional labor. The display of emotions, the smiling at customers, the please and thank you, sir and ma'am, are part of the job. And the way we break this down is in between two categories. One is surface acting, which is the display of emotion without feeling it. And two is the deep acting, the method. The Stella Adler School of Acting utilizes method acting, and these persons have to summon up their emotions prior to displaying them. There is no substitute for genuine emotion. That said, we try to come as close as we possibly can in the model of emotional labor. Genuine emotional labor comes out when it's spontaneous, it's natural. We're enthusiastic for the triumphs of other people, and we feel it from the inside. It breeds a confidence in us that we can display to others. And you want to make sure that when you're expressing this genuine emotional labor, that it's appropriate to the organization, and that you don't take it too far. You don't want to start physically dancing with the customer in line at the fast food restaurant. When we're speaking about this, let's speak about the narcissist. And I know that we covered some self-aggrandizing traits in last week's lecture, but we want to talk about narcissism here. It's a personality trait that encompasses grandiosity, arrogance, self-absorption, entitlement, fragile self-esteem, and hostility. These persons that embody this type of personality trait have selective information processing, in that they reject objective information, like genuine assessment of how they're doing or how they're interrelating with others. They don't have time for it. And it is a reality distorting worldview. I've heard some people say, "I'm the cleaner. I was sent here to clean up this organization, and it's my way or the highway." I've heard other things like, your job here is like a pair of pants. If they don't fit or they don't look right on you, then you have no place here. And these are the type of people that don't have the sort of emotional capital to be able to lead others. In that, you want to try to raise your subordinates rather than direct them completely. you want to try to foster those leadership traits that you want from them. Just like we said earlier with modeling positive behavior for others and allowing them to try it on, we want to foster and cultivate our subordinates to become more self-sufficient, better leaders themselves, and then we are doing the organization's mission rather than just self-serving. Impression management tactics. These are different types of tactics people utilize to convey who they are within the organization. And they consist of self-promotion, ingratiation, exemplification, intimidation, and supplication. Self-promotion is talking up experiences, education, talents, value, and accomplishments. This is to inflate themselves in front of others for purposes of making them seem very important. Ingratiating is complimenting or praising others to obtain favor or favors. Exemplification is dedication. This is something that I look for in employees, starting early and staying late. Not necessarily, it's not all metered in time, but care of work, care of equipment, care of social interaction with the people that we serve is very important, and exemplification is what we want to impart our organization's values. Intimidation is the antithesis. It's forceful or aggressive behavior towards others, and that is the main tool of the narcissist, and you want to be careful of utilizing intimidation. Supplication is pretending to be ignorant to gain aid. How many leaders have you seen that have utilized this specific tactic? And were they effective? It's pretty important to kind of review that for yourself. I haven't found much use for someone that pretends to be ignorant to gain aid. I think if we work together in specific arenas, if someone needs help, I am very apt to provide it. But I think it goes back to that: if you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. If you teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. But you shouldn't have to teach him to fish every day. Now we're on to put it in practice on pages 365 and 366. We have 14 key takeaways, and I'm going to go over them with you right now. Master impression management is number 1. Create favorable impressions by relating your product to broader society goals. 2. Be awe-inspiring. You can learn to be charismatic by using we statements and performing other charismatic behaviors. 3. Create a common social identity. Create a common identity with and among your followers by emphasizing common values and a shared vision of idealized better futures. 4. Crisis and opportunity. Take advantage of both great opportunities and crisis situations to become a charismatic leader. 5. Be heroic. Demonstrate your commitment by taking personal risks for your followers. 6. Express your charisma. Speak well and listen. I'm going to add well to others, because there's a difference between active and passive listening. I dare to say that I want to augment on this is that you need to be an active listener. If someone comes to you with a problem or a situation, you're going to be viewed as someone that can interact with that person if you look them in the eyes, actively engage and participate in a conversation, rather than look off into space, nod your head, and say, uh-huh. Just my own take on number 6. 7. Rhetoric. Use the best possible word, short is better, and power of rhythm. Build your arguments and use analogies. Under number 7, there's a great book by Cicero, and this was published in Greek antiquity, in that you can pick up this book and learn the impassioned argument that is carried forward all the way to Washington, D.C. Cicero wrote the book on rhetoric. 8. Use metaphors, imagery, and vivid language. Direct your way to success with optimistic, action-oriented words. 9. Coach with charisma. If you are personally charismatic, focus on coaching and developing your subordinates. Otherwise, be directive, set goals, and monitor progress. 10. Control emotional contagion. Use your own emotional displays to create positive moods among your followers and to boost perceptions of your charisma. 11. Use deep acting and genuine emotional labor to motivate both yourself and the troops. Avoid surface acting and inauthenticity. 12. Don't go to the dark side. Avoid narcissism and selective information processing. 13. Master impression management. Use impression management to help others save face and create positive impressions of your skills and abilities. Use self-promotion and ingratiation to improve team member satisfaction and liking for each other. 14. Become an emperor, or at least a leader. Master writing, master your voice, don't hold back, master art and ceremony, rule with praise, master grand gesture, and master your craft. And that brings us to the end of the lecture for Chapter 13. Now we're